Welcome back to Rebirth Revolution. My name is Melissa Olson. I'm so happy you've decided to come back and give this another shot. I realize it isn't for everyone, but it is for someone. Along with introducing different ideas, we're going to set up a framework within which we'll relate to one another around this podcast. Our goal is to increase the light and minimize the darkness. That being the case, we're going to share our ideas with one another without inflicting damage. It's not because we don't want criticism. It's because we want to retrain our brains to engage in a manner that only brings light. This doesn't mean you have to agree with anything that I think. It just means that you will share what you think without falling into the destructive pattern of bringing darkness into the conversation. The darkness makes you want to burn a person to the ground with a killer argument, or to shut them up, or to shame them. We will all honor the fact that everyone gets to see it a different way, and that everyone is invited to contribute to the conversation. We will express our views to each other without tearing down each other's ideas. Don't tell me what part of what someone else said that's garbage. Tell me what you believe. And as important as it is that you be heard, it is important that you take the time to hear what others believe as well. I promise you there are some thoughts other people have that will further inform your thinking. None of us can consider every angle because we're limited by our own life experience. Be appreciative when people who live a different existence than the one you live share what it looks like from where they sit. It just may save you from having to sit in the same spot. This will be a conversation that encourages the freedom to think outside what is considered conventional wisdom. That's necessary because conventional wisdom is what got us in this jam we currently face. I want each and every one of us to develop the bravery to piece together our own unique belief system quilt. Each square will be a thought that resonates with you. The Rebirth Revolution ends our acceptance of quilts assembled and mass-produced by someone else. I will block people who are looking to do harm to others. No one will learn anything from your snark and rancor. This is of the darkness, and it won't get us where we want to go. You may feel the deep pull to become combative with people who see things differently. This provides a great lesson that has the potential to move you forward. If you react strongly to a thought that someone else has, this is a clue into internal work you need to do. That they said it is no big deal. That it got to you is. We're all working at different levels, so some thoughts expressed by people from higher levels of awareness will go right over your head. Don't get mad. Just know that what they're saying is not only not stupid, but it may make sense to you further down the road and be the missing piece your quilt needs. Some comments will be from people who are currently at a lower level than you. Don't get mad. They are where you once were in terms of awareness, whether you remember it or not. Move on and wait for a comment that really resonates with you. That will come from someone at or near your current level of awareness. The sweet spot we're trying to hit here is where you take in ideas that are just a tad outside of your comfort zone, something that challenges you to grow. It's like in yoga where you get in a position, you think you are at your physical limit, then the instructor asks you to move 1 inch further. You do it. You can do it. And you didn't even know it until you were asked. I'm asking you to go 1 inch further. In our culture, we're taught to avoid discomfort at every turn. If you feel discomfort, pour yourself a drink. If you feel discomfort, take this pill. If you feel discomfort, eat some chunky almond butter. Okay, that's just me. But growth does not happen within a protective bubble. Growth happens when you move into something that you're a little afraid of. It happens when you face something difficult without running away. Here's a favorite quote of mine. It's from David Bowie. If you feel safe in the area you're working in, you're not working in the right area. Always go a little bit further into the water than you feel you're capable of being in. Go a little bit out of your depth. And when you don't feel that your feet are quite touching the bottom, you're just about in the right place to do something exciting. It's not my goal to get everyone to agree with my point of view. It is my goal to help you find your point of view and to refine it through exposure to the perspectives of others. I want to provide a space where you can engage in an exercise in growth. I want to help you find your voice. I want to remind you that you are in battle daily and that the only thing that matters is what you choose. I want to support you in choosing light over darkness. I want to help you strengthen the greatest tool you have to discern between light and dark, your intuition. I want you to recognize that you are part of a huge community of people who seek light and work daily to lift us all up. I want to help remind you of why you're here and to reignite your excitement about having chosen this time and this battle. This podcast can help you grow even if you don't agree with anything I say. The process of hearing a thought and deciding if you agree or not and determining what you do believe is an act of growth. The intent is to share what I think while poking and prodding you to get in touch with what you believe. The practice of expressing what you think and feel without resorting to bringing darkness into the conversation is also an act of growth. It takes real discipline and a positive intent. These are muscles we all need to strengthen. The rebirth is a marathon, not a sprint. So we're going to need all the strength and positive strategies we can build. One of the best ways to understand the new principles that we're introducing in Rebirth Revolution is to apply them to everyday problems. I've been working with these concepts for over 5 years now, and I like to apply them to the letters that have been sent into advice columns. The advice that fits the revolution is always different than what you will read in your standard advice column. Let's try this out with your lives. You can send your questions or comments to rebirthrev@gmail.com or post them in the comments following the podcast on www.rebirthrevolution.com. Let's see what we can do. Okay, let's get into the concept for week 2. In the previous episode, episode 1, I talked about the first of 3 tracks you are on in your life, your Earth experience. You'll want to go back and listen to that if you haven't. The 3 tracks are intertwined, and understanding of each one is necessary to see the big picture. The second track you're participating in is the collective culture. When you agreed to come to Earth, you chose the culture that would best facilitate your personal growth. One of the issues I came here to work on is radical self-acceptance. So I came as a woman to this culture where I'm automatically paid less, given less respect, and told daily the 5,000 reasons that I'm not enough. I came to a culture that has historically treated women unfairly. I was taught that it wasn't proper to speak up for myself or defend myself, so I was easily slotted as wrong. I came at an exciting time, though, since so many are working together to reverse the ridiculous notions of the past. This is my perfect playground. What you came here to work on can also be found in the culture you chose. You knew in advance the rules and repercussions of the culture you were entering. Clues about your work here can be unearthed by first determining whether you entered a culture that is accepting of you or rejecting of you. If the culture automatically accepts you, then part of your work is to extend that acceptance to those who have been automatically rejected. If the culture rejected you, then you have self-acceptance to work on, along with being a force for change, here to enlighten the culture at large. All of us will be challenged to grow through the changing tides of the culture, whether they flow in our favor or not. There are many who thought they had earned acceptance in our culture just to see all of that reversed in the blink of an eye. You begin learning the ins and outs of our social agreements when you're a child. What you learned is wholly dependent on those who nurtured you, and may be brilliant or horribly wrong. For most people, it was a messy mix, good on some fronts and bad on others. Children are completely dependent on those who nurture them to figure out what's up. As we all know, some kids get a great foundation because their parents have acquired one, or they get a shaky foundation from parents who haven't figured it out quite yet. As you grow, you're exposed to more and more people who will either validate what you have been taught or bring it all into question. The size of the pool grows radically as you move from your home to bigger and bigger schools until you are dumped out into the general population. The collective culture both feeds you and challenges you. There was a time when everyone lived in their own little bubble, agreeing to basic rules that those in their immediate surroundings had established. It was clear what the tribe believed and what the consequences would be should you disagree. Most people went along to get along. Knowing that you had to look your neighbors in the eye every day made it more difficult to forge your own path. No one wanted to be the weirdo. So people hid everything about themselves that made them unique and interesting. They all dressed as the tribe dressed, acted as the tribe acted, and decidedly did not ruffle feathers. When people revere the olden days, they're expressing exhaustion with being responsible for a more difficult curriculum. Being authentic is much more difficult than falling into line with everyone else. When I was growing up, I gathered everything I could about how to be a woman from my mom's magazines, the women's magazines. I studied them like they were the Holy Grail. These magazines were full of all of the rules. I took them all in. I took them all seriously. You were never to wear green and blue at the same time. To wear red and pink together was unthinkable. Blonde women could only wear peach-colored blush and lipstick. There were rules for everything. It was insane. Then all of that blew up. Now we have social media where people from all over the globe can tell you what they think about what you've said, done, and what you look like. Well, there are more people who may disagree with your thinking. You will find an opportunity to find even more people who see things your way. Your tribe may be made up of people all over the globe who you wouldn't have met otherwise. I think many people are shocked when they post a thought, admittedly one that is indicative of being from a lower level of awareness, and everyone loses their collective minds. What you need to realize is that comment made total sense to the person who posted it. Pointing out what is problematic about their thought may not truly sink in for years, or maybe not even in this lifetime. I feel bad for people who get piled on for things that are outside of their current awareness. All the screaming from others makes absolutely no sense to them. If they could truly understand why what they said was wrong, they wouldn't have said it in the first place. We are all bound together by the culture we chose to join here on earth, but we are not all working at the same level or working on the same issues. We need to accept that the only thoughts that make any sense to us come from people who are at or near our own level of awareness. The rest of it zips over your head or reminds you of yourself when you are not quite where you are now. The collective culture inches along while deciding what is and is not acceptable. The rules continue to shift as we have more people who are capable of empathy and driven by integrity. But the collective culture, like each individual's personal journey, is constantly tempted to go backwards. Forging ahead takes difficult work. Going backwards is simply giving up the fight. There will always be forces that try to undo the good that has been done. This can only be remedied by the actions of each individual in the collective. We must choose and choose again what is right. Complacency will result in backwards movement. The collective culture illustrates the average of every member's level of spiritual awareness. Higher level people learn from the past and move forward. Lower level people are still attached to concepts like Nazism, which my father risked his life many decades ago to eradicate. The collective culture will always be made up of students at all the different levels of spiritual awareness. This is the same in every culture on the planet. There will always be those who kill, rape, rob, and destroy. Those are the kindergartners and first graders of the spiritual awareness grade levels, and they exist in every single culture. There are also those who represent the highest forms of awareness, those working their spiritual master's degrees in every culture. Most of the people are working in the grades in between. Since each and every culture has the full gamut of grade levels, it needs to take into account all the people at all the grade levels. The thoughts and needs of first graders are as important as the thoughts and needs of those in college levels. The difference is that you need to make sure that those at the low levels do not have power over other people, since that is not something that they are equipped to handle properly. In the Rebirth Revolution, we are shaping the collective culture by our individual choices. We are deciding daily what we will and will not accept in the world around us. This is not something that any of us can afford to sleep on. We need to get up each day and be resolute in what we believe and what we want our culture to reflect. Your personal movement, both forward and backward, changes the level of our collective culture. Let's do what we can to keep this moving forward. Next time, in our third episode, we will cover the third and final track you are on. Please join us. Until then, be open, be aware, watch for clues, and decide what it says on the first square of your quilt. Remember, you are loved exactly as much as every other person on the planet, not 1 ounce more or 1 ounce less. Until next time.